This is AENN, American Exceptionalism News Network.
Mr. Speaker, I rise in strong support of H-Con Res. 353, expressing the sense of the Congress that the United States should assume a strong leadership role in implementing the decisions made at the Earth Summit in Rio de Janeiro, and developing a national strategy to implement Agenda 21 and other Earth Summit agreements through domestic policy and foreign policy.
The Earth Summit Environmental Leadership Act, as this is known, presents us with an opportunity to follow up on the important work of the Earth Summit to develop its blueprint, Agenda 21, for global environmental action.
The fact is that the United States government made a very constructive contribution in Rio and in the talks that led to the meeting in Rio. Largely as a result of the conference, they adopted four major items: the Rio Declaration on Environment and Development, the lengthy action plan referred to as Agenda 21, the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, and the non-binding but authoritative principles for the management and conservation of forest resources.
2110.
You'll find that they've also asked for the right to imprison farmers who wouldn't keep books as prescribed by the federal government. The Secretary of Agriculture asked for the right to seize farms through condemnation and resell them to other individuals. And contained in that same program was a provision that would have allowed the federal government to remove 2 million farmers from the soil.
Let's talk about the Second Amendment, the Bundys. Isn't this great? I mean, this is just, really, in our nation's history, there's only been a few times, the Civil War and the Revolutionary War, where we saw something that happened like this. Something so epic happened at the Bundy's ranch. Now, the left tells me I'm just Looney Tunes. That was no big deal. The heck it wasn't. That was the first time that Americans stood up, stepped up, and said no to the government with weapons in hand. That was the first time in this nation's history since the Civil War, at least. Now, people say, well, that was bad because it was guns and pointed and all that. The government knew it was wrong. I have people who have talked to those BLM agents, and they knew it was wrong. And they also knew they were outgunned. They were outsmarted. The people from the veterans that were there had them completely outwitted, completely outmanned. The strategy just went out the window. Now, how did it start with Cliven Bundy? It started with Agenda 21. United Nations Agenda 21. Cliven Bundy is the first victory against Agenda 21 on a massive scale that we've ever seen. And this is how it happened. Agenda 21, 1992, June, signed into their agreement in Rio de Janeiro. Nancy Pelosi, you gotta love her, right? You know, I swear she listens to my radio show, and I say this all the time, because since Benghazi happened, I have tried my best to keep it out in front, right? We were one of the few news sources and radio stations saying Benghazi, 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 all the time. Those of you who listen to my show, you hear me say that, right? And I get calls from people, stop saying it, man, we get it. You know? And I said, no, I'm gonna keep saying it. Because every time we turn around, that name is gonna be in Hillary Clinton's face. Every single time. Well, what Cliven Bundy did, he was confronted because Nancy Pelosi passed H.R. 353 in October of 1992, which was for sustainability. It was a tie-in between Agenda 21 from Rio de Janeiro, the UN bill, to tie in and create the President's Council on Sustainability for Bill Clinton, because he became president in January 1993, right? Okay, his council comes together, and one of the first things it says to do, EPA, and aren't they in trouble right now? I hate it when this happens. But EPA, what we want you to do is, we want you to rustle up them BLM guys, and we want you to go out and start charging range fees. And oh, by the way, charge them, and then make them sign this certificate. Just be sure, contract. And in that contract, just make sure they sign it. They don't need to read it. They don't need to understand it. It's just too many words. They can read it afterwards. in that contract, they give up their constitutional rights to the property and grazing. And you know what Clive Bundy did? He said, no, I'm not doing that. 53 ranchers in that area were all, and I'm using Clive Bundy's words, were managed out of business by that contract. That was Agenda 21. That's how you get people off the land. That's how Harry Reid gets access to the land, so he can use it with the Chinese, which we'll talk about in a second. How many knew that? Wow, great victories. But this war is far from over. And if you think you're not on a war footing, I'm here to tell you, you need to get on one, and you need to be serious, because they are serious. And we have been long too unserious about this, because we haven't been awakened yet, but we're starting to. And it's a wonderful thing to see these things that are starting to happen out there, at least from my perspective, because I talk to people from all around the nation and sometimes around the world before I go on the air, and I see just so many good things about ready to happen. But we have to have everybody on focus.